I just would like to confirm if Ina can record the meeting.
Yes, Light, I've already started just when you.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So now we have all the speakers present. We can go ahead. So welcome everyone to our webinar series, the Glowdom and edX, leveraging the digital ecosystem for education in Namibia. As you know, Glowdom and edX have joined forces to provide a national-grade education digitalization ecosystem for Namibia. edX is the leading education software ecosystem in Finland, with 90% of Finnish higher education institutions using our edutech solutions. On the other hand, Glowdom has advanced the quality of education in Africa through local capacity building and relevant education technology solutions. Together, edX and Glowdom want to transform the way information is managed at all levels of education in Namibia. Our goal is to change the way school and student management and related services are done in the country. We pave the way for modern and simple-to-use digital platforms as genuine tools for self-leadership, where each stakeholder can enjoy up-to-date and highly accessible information and base their decisions on the facts they draw from that information. My name is Laís Oliveira Leite, and I am the moderator for the third episode of our webinar series. This episode is about education in the world 4.0, bridging the gap between education and the market. But before I pass the stage to our speakers, I would like to ask the audience in general to keep your mic muted during the whole webinar. However, if someone from the audience wants to make questions to the speakers after their presentation, please write down all your questions, comments, suggestions in the chat, and I will collect them and make them in the last moments of our webinar. Hopefully, we will have between 20 and 50 minutes for questions and answers. But now let's start. I would like to invite Paulina Halme, the partner director at edX. She is responsible of the company partnerships, but also business development and new ideas. Paulina is a mother of a 2-year-old toddler and has played football since her 8th year. She is inspired by professionals of any kind and people who are keen on developing themselves. Next, Paulina will tell us about a case example of how edX has started to build a new age system around skills and competencies. Paulina, the stage is all yours. I will stop sharing my screen now. Is that okay?
Thank you, Lais.
Just a moment. Stop sharing now. You can share your screen.
Yes.
And
let's see if I can. Just a second. So can you see the whole screen now, or?
Yes.
Good. So hi everyone, as Lais mentioned, my name is Pauliina Halme and I'm a partner director in edX Limited. I was invited to speak to you about collaboration between education and business in Finland, and how private public education centers, enterprises, collaborations can boost local and national development. And I'm sure you know and guess that this is so so wide subject that I had to think about the point of view and the aspect what I will say about this matter to you and hopefully discuss with you and thought about looking to the future instead of looking back and tell you all the things that we have done in the past at EduX. The background about the things and this whole skills and competences discussion in Finland goes back to the 10-year plan that the ministry and universities call DigiVision 2013. The vision says, among other things, of course, that the nation, we in Finland, should have a common skills bank by the year 2013. So 30. So basically, we have 10 years time to build this skills bank. Universities, Ministry of Education and Arts, and of course we as a companies are aiming towards that goal in different ways. And now I'm telling you how we are seeing this at EduX and what have we already done and what we are thinking about this matter. So basically, in ideal world, we have a student who, after the studies of like five-year, graduates and then goes to the labor market and gets a job right away. Unfortunately, in real life, the case isn't always like this. We have universities and universities of applied sciences that provide studies and curricula say that, okay, this is the things that you need to study, and then after the graduation, some of the students graduate right away, but some are still after the 5 years of studying, still lacking the skills and competencies that are needed in working life. So basically the needs of labor market and the schools, the education are not meeting each other. We, with our partner company called Hedai, have started to think this problem and looking towards future. We have started asking questions like, how do we know what kind of skills people already have? So basically, what is the skills and what are the skills and capabilities that, for example, me as Master of Administrative Sciences, but also as a football player and a mother, what skills do I have as a whole? What are the summer jobs that I've been in before studying? What are the jobs that I have been when I'm studying, and how does the combination of my working life, my studies, and education, and the free time. What skills and competencies do I have as a whole? The question comes already when I start, or whoever starts studying, and of course brings it comes back again when they graduate, when a student graduates. The second question is, how could we utilize those invisible skills that actually already exists more efficiently? And the third question is how to narrow the gap between the world of education, that it includes curricula, courses, and the overall goals of the degree, and on the other hand, the labor market needs. And the fourth question is of course that what skills the labor market already have, and where is the need in the labor market, what skills and competencies the labor market needs in the future. In this next slide, we have identified 3 different kind of skills and competencies. Certified skills, for example, degree studies and publications. Then we have the approved or recognized skills, for example, piano teacher who tells that, okay, Lais, you can play piano, and you are good at it, and so on, although you don't have a certified degree from piano playing. And then we have, of course, the self-described skills, for example, CV in LinkedIn, the LinkedIn profile, and so on. And the whole idea within this concept or vision is that we can have the machine's interpretation of the skills. So basically we have the whole data collection from the student, and all the degrees and the studies and the education history. Then we have the know-how from labor market, and then we have the things that you tell by yourself. And we can compare them to, for example, to the labor market data, job advertisements, and so on, so that we can see that if there's a fit or if there's a gap, and then we can start narrowing the gap. Now I can see that the clock is ticking, so I move on. Basically, this was what this is the same thing, just in different words. We have the skills and competencies of a student, of a worker. Then we have the labor market needs. Then we have the individual's goals and dreams. For example, I want to start coding games, for example. Then that's my dream, that's my goal. And now we know what skills and competencies I already have. And then there's the labor market needs. So basically, the companies say that in order to be a game coder, you have to have these skills. Then there can be an education. For example, universities can offer the courses and the education that are needed, so that I can become a coder, a game coder. So the idea and the vision and the goal is that we can find the experts and the skills workers that are meeting the needs of the labor market. And of course, we support students and or potential students or working people in identifying their own skills and competencies, so that we help them to say, so that they can say that, okay, I already know this thing, I already know the basics of marketing, I don't have to study this course again when I go to study university. I have already done this for 10 years in working life. I already know these things, and this is more and more efficient when we have the data. So basically, we are asking that if the picture and the future could look like this, instead of the picture that I showed, the first slide from my presentation. Basically, what if the machine helps people, helps student, teachers, even companies to identify the needs and the skills that we have in the society. For example, a student has been a football team captain, then the information goes straight to the CV that can be uploaded, and where is the data that the machine has done from the data that we are collecting and the data that the students have given to the machine. And in the future, we hope that there's more and more discussion between the companies and the ones at the universities who are developing curricula, so that we know the needs from the labor markets. Of course, there is already discussion and dialogue, but when we have the machine that helps to identify the needs from the labor market, then there's easier ways to say that, okay, these are the skills and competencies that are lacking. And hopefully the man who says that no, you're not allowed to come, or you don't have the capabilities to come and to start working in this field, hopefully he goes smaller and smaller, and even more students that are graduating will have the capabilities, the skills and competencies that are needed in the labor market. This was my thoughts from the subject. Thank you all, and feel free to ask any questions if you have some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulina, so much for all this contribution. We will come back to that by the end of the session. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Ezekiel Johannes to talk about a little bit more the collaboration between education and business in Namibia. Mr. Johannes is a graduate in economics, and he just completed his Master of Business Administration in Cyprus. Mr. Johannes, among many other relevant contributions, has assisted in developing the innovation potential in uncommon businesses in Namibia through the Namibia Business Innovation Institute. Currently, Mr. Johannes is the Innovation Officer of the Namibia Business Innovation Institute of NUST. He describes himself as a motivator, mentor, and a business coach for aspiring innovators and inventors. This, he says, is close to his heart. Thank you so much for being here with us, Mr. Johannes, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Les. Or is that how you pronounce your name? Lies or Lays? How do you pronounce it?
Lais.
Lais. So thank you so much. That was quite a very huge introduction for me. Just a little bit on what I'm doing for the 9 years at the Innovation Institute. Really, our job with the university is to promote innovation and entrepreneurship. And how do we do that? We try to use what we call the multi-helix model, where we are trying to bring together the private sector, the academia, the civil society, and the civil society and the government, so that they can really come up with solutions that speaks to the economy. Our strategy has been really to focusing on really scouting entrepreneurs and individuals all over the country. But from last year, we have really tried to change our focus to focus only to the students within the university. Now, coming to this topic, it was really interesting to see how Pauline, kind of put it very well, that if you look at the Industrial Revolution 4.0, and then you look at the education sector, and then you also look at the market, it's quite a really kind of a complicated puzzles to put together. And in Namibia, what we have been doing really is to make sure that the private sector and the academics and the government and the civil society talk together. We are really playing at the point where we are trying to provide a platform so that we can speak about the future. Now, the challenge here, and also me being involved in edutech companies in Namibia, and also I started that at the moment with the policy, we speak about the policy and the strategy. Namibia is really now only realizing that we need all these strategies in place. And if you look at the Industrial Revolution 4.0, talking about big data, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, things really have been coming only into play 2 years ago, where we even founded what we call the Internet Society of Namibia, just to advocate internet. And also when you look at the big data, this is just the topics now at the moment in Namibia. We are not really implementing it at the moment. I'm not being negative here if there's a Namibian in the audience there and saying that maybe I'm trying to be negative, but this is reality. This is the reality on the ground. Now, the gap in the universities, what we are trying to do now at the Namibia Innovation Institute is really to assess the market and look at what is the market need. What do the market need? And then talk to the academics, talking about the lecturers, students, and see if they can come up with solution. And what we are running this project under what we call Innovation Challenge, which has not really been working very well because it's very difficult. There's a lot of IP issues when you're talking to company and so forth, just to see what the companies really need. And also one of the challenges that we have, there is no strategy like what Pauline is telling us, in Finland. In Namibia, we don't really have a strategy, even within the university, on how we can work together with industry. At the moment, we are looking at more on we have a center within the university called Center for Cooperative Education, which lies with the industry intend to provide internship for students. But if you look at it, it's not really catching up with the Industrial Revolution 4.0, because also the industry themselves, the companies themselves, they are not yet at that level to say that they are catching up with Industrial Revolution, even though in the banking sector, we see that there's an improvement when it's come to Industrial Revolution 4.0. Now, our university, one of the project that we are working on now it's the online study with our students that have registered with our university. Though we are still struggling at the moment because the students themselves, they are not really catching up with the Internet of Things. They are not really catching up with the Internet revolution. So basically, I'm pointing this to education, basic education, and I'm really happy to hear that what Paulina is trying to say here, that assessing the skills, what really the industry need, and push that to the education sector so that it can talk to the industry. So my conclusion is that I feel that even though we are already in that era where we are talking about industrial revolution, we are a little bit behind. Not really behind, let me say we are far behind because this topic is only being spoken in some sector. Yes, of course, in the academics, they are talking it, the speakers are talking about it, but we are not really seeing the practicality of it. We are still a little bit behind. If I'm not eating a lot of time, maybe I can hold it as the discussion go further. We'll see how we can dive into it and see how we can really. I'm looking forward to see how my fellow speakers are going to dive into to see what can we do in terms of helping the developing world to set up the proper innovation ecosystem, because if you don't have a proper innovation ecosystem, it will be a challenge to talk to industrial revolution. Just to set up a proper strategic plan within the universities that talks to industry also. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ezekiel. I think your how can I say, your intriguing comments. I already have a lot of questions and discussions to make. I'm just trying to hold myself to the end. But yes, all your questions are very, very interesting. They're very engaging, especially in the sense that when you say that we are lagging behind, I can see it also mostly in terms of the education institutions, especially universities, who have a very traditional way of providing education, and it seems like a big truck that, because it's so heavy, it has so much bureaucracy behind it, and the educators and the staff, they are so attached to daily routine. It's difficult to bring this innovation and the potentialities that the World 4.0 and this new possibilities bring. But I'm very excited. I want to discuss a lot about it. But now I have to invite our next speaker, Alti Lagstedt, to talk about how learning analytics can also contribute to the discussion, especially to the learning process of students, and help in bridging the gap between the education sector and the labor market needs. Alti holds a PhD in Information System Science and a master's degree in technology. His expertise are information system development methods, software development, and business process digitalization. He has worked at the Haga Helia University of Applied Sciences as a senior lecturer and thesis coordinator since 2004. Right now, I would like to invite Alti to the stage. Welcome, and please feel free to contribute.
All right, Lais, thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Yes, I'm very interested about digitalization, digital transformation, things related to digital transformation, and especially in education sector. And today I'm going to talk about learning analytics. And as we have quite short time now, I'm not going to have a very long speech, and so we have only a glimpse of the topic. But I hope you can get some kind of idea what is learning analytics, how it's used, why it's used, what kind of challenges there are. And if we have time, we may say some words how this learning analysis supports personalization, students learning, and how it can be connected to labor market as well. But I'll try to share my presentation. Do you see it?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. I try it. It should be shared. Okay. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, as Lais mentioned, my name is Alti Laxted. I hold PhD in Information Systems Science and Master of Science in Technology. And I'm working in Haga Helia University of Applied Sciences, being there something like 16 years already, and done several things, several teaching, of course, and later mostly research projects. And we are doing a cooperation project with EduX and Glowdom, EduDitra, meaning Education Digital Transformation. And I see this learning analytics is one part of digitalization. And yeah, about learning analytics, why it is important, we can say that ultimate purpose is optimize the learning process. So improve the learning. So the learner is in the center. What we can offer for students, how we can help them is the most important thing when we are discussing about learning analytics. And this is applied, of course, in courses inside curriculums, but also when we are discussing how we can help learners, students to go to the labor markets. How we can optimize their processes, what they have to learn, and how they should learn it. Today I'm going to have 5 topics, and as I have limited time, I will go them quite shortly through. But of course, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer. And first, I'm going to talk about why learning analytics, what are the objectives, what is the targets, and after that, what kind of data is collected, because whenever we have analytics, we have to have data to analyze. And in learning analytics, we have data from learners. And then I'm going to talk how the data is collected and how it is analyzed. Well, very briefly. And then I have the 4th topic. Who are the stakeholders? who should be involved. This is very small topic here, but it's essential to remember that there are other stakeholders than learners. And the fifth and the last part is what are the main challenges of learning analytics. I think someone has something to say. Dennis? Okay. Yeah. Well, at first, why learning analytics? Well, when we analyze learners, it's important to monitor what is really happening inside the class, how the individual students are progressing, and we can reflect pedagogy, and we can reflect teaching approach we are using. We may recognize patterns, meaning that we can find out that these similar things happens every time we have this and this. So we can find correlations, and of course we can make benchmark. We can see this group is progressing very well, but this group has some problems. What are the differences, and so on. Monitoring is quite obvious, and I think this is the most feared part as well. And I'm afraid some teachers are fearing that when we have learning analytics, we are monitoring how they are teaching. Well, of course we are doing that as well, but this is not the center. We are mostly interested how students are learning, and it's not the same that how teachers are teaching. Well, we can use learning analytics to make interventions. So we may have tutoring, mentoring if needed. We can make some changes to pedagogical or teaching approaches we have. And we may have special arrangements. For example, in Haaga-Helia, we have some thesis intensives time to time when we've realized that there are students struggling with their thesis writing. So we have these, let's say, 1 week intensive week for all those students who have problems, and they come to the classes and we help them to continue with writing with their thesis. Well, in addition, we may use learning analytics to prediction. So we can make adaptation to different situations, and we make personalization. And some people are saying that this personalization is the ultimate target of learning analytics. So we can make personalized studying plans for separate students, and we can evaluate their skills, their ways to learn, and make a combination which suits best for them, their targets. And that this is very closely related to what Pauliina said about how students are located in labor markets, how we can help them most. So when we know how they are, what kind of learners they are, what kind of pedagogical ways are best for them, what they know already, then we can tailor specialized packets for them. Well, these are the ultimate targets shortly. And next I'm going to talk about data, how the data is collected, what kind of data is collected. And in general, I can say that the data is tried to collect as much automatically as possible. So we can see how much students are using information systems, how often they log into systems, how much time they spend in the assignments, and how long they read the materials given, and what time of the day they are using these systems. And we can see that if they are more interested about different material areas than others, because they are using more time with them, for example, or making more assignments related to those areas. we can see what kind of documents they are downloading, how they use other resources available, and are they doing interaction with the teacher? Are they doing cooperation? Do they have groups? What kind of activities they have in the groups, working areas? What kind of messages they send? And in addition, what kind of grades they get? These are all these are quite easy to collect if students are using information systems. Of course, it's much difficult if there are no information system in use. I'll say some words about that later. And how the data is collected? Well, I already mentioned that it's mainly from information systems, and the main emphasis is on formative assessment, meaning that the day-to-day actions. Of course, summative assessments matters, so what kind of grades they get with the final assessment of the course, but it's more interesting to see what students are doing day-to-day basis. But what is the way they learn? And the data is collected from education and learning environments. This is the most common way to do it. So if Moodle is used, for example, or form check is used, it's possible to see when students have logged in, have they done, and so on. So data is either data is already available or it's easy to add to the systems that the data will be available. And of course, in some cases, surveys are used. For example, one survey per a couple of weeks, or but those surveys are not necessarily automatic. Some cases they are automatic surveys, but it's possible that teachers send some intermediate surveys time to time. There might be other data channels as well. I know that there have been at least some research done based on location of students' mobile phone, and what other is done with the phone at the same time when student is learning or studying. And but it depends, and these data collection methods have to be discussed case by case. What kind of data is needed and how it is collected. And I'll come back to data collection when I talk about challenges of the learning analytics, but these are the primary channels we have. Well, then about analysis, it's normally statistical analysis done with business intelligence, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and visualization tools. The idea is that with these analyzing tools, patterns, alarms are found out, and it can be said that 4 different kind of knowledge is looked after. What happened? Why did it happen? What will happen? And how can we make it happen? And there are different kind of analytics for each of these knowledge areas. Right. Next, I'm going to talk about stakeholders. And as I said, this is very small part, but it's very important to keep in mind that although the learner is at the center, other groups have to be involved as well. Of course, teachers have a very essential role, but if we talk about pupils, parents are very important resources, and it's really essential that they are facilitating the learners and following the progress, because they see what really happens in day-to-day evenings and times when pupils should do their homeworks. Well, and of course, school management have to be involved as well, because they are the parties facilitating the teachers, and they are balancing the whole school, so they can make changes when they are benchmarking each group, different groups together, and so it's very important that school management are doing cooperation with teachers, not that way that school management says that you have to do this, but they should be as more or less development group together with make change, make adjustment, and balance the system all the time. And the role of each participant have to be discussed case by case. What are the targets of the process? What kind of data we are collecting? When these assignments or homework should be done, and how we can follow what really happens, who should be, and in which kind of role. All right. And next, I'm going to talk about challenges, because there really are challenges. Well, there are ethical challenges, of course. If, for example, if we follow what students are doing with their mobile phones, if we use the location information, if we check whom they are connected and how much and so on, we have quite much privacy problems, I think. And if it's not against the law, there might be problems still, because if students don't see this beneficial, they don't be very eager to collaborate with these kind of systems, and we have to think of every time the privacy problems have to be think about. Well, there is also I think quite easily we are thinking that we can make automatic decision making as well. When we have data enough and we rely on the data, we think that we can make algorithms, and we can use these algorithms to make decisions. And there are a lot of risks, and especially there are ethical challenges as well. And even though these decisions are made by humans, there are risks, because we may have incomplete data, and if we make decisions based on incomplete data, we might be unfair in some situations. Well, there is problems with data. This is always whenever we are digitalizing processes and we are collecting data from the processes, we have to think about how we get quality enough data. If we have bad data, we have this garbage in, garbage out problem. So the analysis is not usable at all. Well, when we're talking about learning analytics, the data is not always comprehensive. Collected data covers only minimal part of learning. For example, if the teaching is based on classroom teaching mostly, and the information systems have very minimal role, and we collect data only from this information system use, then we have only very minimal view from students' way of learning. And we can, of course, type data manually, but there are some there are several well-known risks. For example, who will be the person who is typing the data? If it's a teacher, he or she will have a lot of extra work to do that. And if we calculate if we use the data, for example, the base of his or her salary, there is risk for fraud, that kind of things. And well, the data is really important, and it have to be really discussed before any kind of learning analytics is done. And we have to remember that learners, students, they have other life as well, and that other life affects to learning. Well, they might have circumstances where no matter school tries, learner is not able to learn. For example, if pupils are not allowed to sleep enough, if they don't have time to make their homework, they are not lazy or they are not stupid, but they are not able to learn either. We can't find out that from learning analytics. We have to understand the circumstances, other circumstances as well. Well, the situation changes. We may have different curriculum. We may have different learning objectives. We shouldn't compare old data automatically to new data. We have to see what kind of changes there have happened. And sometimes predictions are not accurate. And sometimes data is not understood. So we make it very good quality data, but if it's not thoroughly understood what the data really means, then we have problems. And it have to be remembered that data always costs something. There is no such thing as a free data. If we want to have more and more comprehensive data, the more we have to pay. It doesn't mean that we have to pay money, but we have to pay with time, energy, motivation, trust. And we have to, every time we have to discuss how much we are willing to pay from this data. Is this data so important that we have to lower the motivation of teachers or students because of this data, for example? All right, this was more glimpse of learning analytics, and I thank you all for listening. And if you have questions, I try my best to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alti, so much for your contributions too. Now we have about 10 minutes time for question, answers, comments from the audience. And I would like to actually start by, I'm sharing my screen now, right? I think we don't need it for a while. Yes, so it's a broad comment, but also some sort of instigating question for all of our speakers. Trying to summarize in a very brief, in general terms, we had the first industrial revolution when the hand production was transformed into machinery production. Then with the second revolution, we have basically the railroad and the telegraph, meaning we have more mobility of people and ideas. Then the third revolution, also called the digital revolution, with the computers, and by the end of the last century with the internet. So here we see how all of these changed like the human work way of communicating and relating to each other, but also migrating between places. And now we have the fourth revolution with the mobile device, Internet of Things, 3D printing, crisp technology. So all this integration between biology, technology, cyber technology, and everything, microsystems, and so on and so on. Okay, so from all these huge things that has happened, how do you see in your particular life, for instance, Paulina over there in Finland, also Alti, and Ezekiel, how you see this fourth revolution directly impacting your life, or how you see it will impact, for instance, your children's life?
Start.
Yes, please.
Okay. Should I? Oh, Paulina, want to go first?
Go on. You can start.
Okay. No, Liz, that's a very critical question when you look at it, because most of the industrial revolution when happened we were not there, but yes, it has an impact on us, on how we do things today. When you look at the 4.0, they are talking about big data. They are talking about Internet of Things. They are talking about if I can just mention artificial intelligence. These things, when you look at them, it needs everyone to be prepared, either young or old. It means that those things have to be installed in the education system to make sure that our learners or students are aware of this type of concept. First of all, they need to understand the concept. When they understand the concept, then it will help them prepare when they get into the job market. So at the moment, when you look at these, the good things about these things is that it becomes so easy for us to access information, for example, if we need them. The other thing is that we don't need to invent the wheel anymore, because things are readily available. But when you look at the negative side of things, for example, if you look at artificial intelligence and so forth, it's somehow going to impact the job market. So basically, it could lead to unemployment rate to increase, and it could also cause an outdate to education, to the type of education that we have. So it means that the countries, the education systems, need to catch up with the industrial revolution. The other thing also, what we see now, especially on the Internet of Things, you are seeing that our children's now, if you look at social media, for example, they are not really using it in the way that it's supposed to use. They are posting anything that they want, which may harm them in the future. But so obviously with proper education on educating our children, they might know how to use it effectively. So there is a lot of challenges, and there is also good things in terms of industrial revolution. So I hope I have done justice to your question. But if there is any clarity, I'm still available.
Yes, thank you. What about Paulina and Alti? Then we move on to the audience questions.
Yes, Lies, that was extremely good and uh, and hard question. I think that in a small scale, you asked how I can already use the functionalities that we have. For example, I could already adjust my fridge, like the how much there are, how warm or cold it is from a grocery store. When I go home, it's like 2 degrees lower than before. But the main question is that, do I need that function? Do I need all the things that we can have from the Internet of Things? Is it like a valid function? In my opinion, no, and I don't use that function at all. And the next step, I think, is that we have to learn to ask the right questions. We already know how to collect the data. For example, what Johannes just said, that the data comes from, for example, from the social media updates. We already have the data in there, and people are all the time typing new data to the data banks, and we have those big data and so on. But the next step and the critical thing is that we ask the right questions. For example, what Alti just said about the learning analytics, and the labor market needs, and things like that. I think that that's critical for our children as well.
Yes, thank you, Paulina, and I agree with you. I wouldn't use that function either if I had that. But yeah, I think it's quite old saying that changes in short term are slower than expected, and in long run they are faster than expected. I think one reason is that we have quite much hype all the time. We have these kind of functions which are not needed, and we have that some kind of ideas which are coming much later than expected. And we have to select what is really possible to do right now, and what will be possible to do, let's say, 5 years from this. And we should concentrate those which we can make changes right now, and wait what is happening in those techniques which are coming. So we have to be aware what kind of research and development is going on, but we shouldn't be waiting for that. We can do something already now with the tools we have already. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Alti. Thank you, Paulina. I have a question here from Nikki, I believe directed to Paulina when she was presenting. And the question is, do we really have a hub that can store the data, for instance, from the students when they are progressing in their academic degree, for instance, for more years to avoid loss of information?
Actually, in Finland, we have this national data bank that captures all the information from students, like actually every night. So basically, all the universities already report the student data and the study data to the national bank. It's called Virta in Finland. So basically we already have the national level hub or a bank that stores the information. I believe Alti has something he wants to add to this.
Yes, you mentioned this DigiVision 2030.
Yeah.
I think one part of this DigiVision is to develop that bank. So we will have the bank where students will own the data. So they will get the data and they can deliver the data for whomever they want.
Yeah.
But yes, we already have one kind of data and we are developing it further. Yep.
Yeah. And one addition, the data is as Alti says, it's owned by the organization right now, and that's one of the problem that we have, that if one student studies in this university and then goes to the next one, then the studies are in separate places. So that's one part of the division, so that all the studies are in the same place. Yeah, thanks, Al.
Lais, can you repeat again the question?
Yes, Nikki asked if is there such type of hub or data bank that can store the data about the academic progress of students over years. So information about the skill development and competence development of these students and the interest is not lost. On the contrary, it can be used. So the information about the education qualifications and the competencies available in the market are suitable for the market needs. I mean, this is the question I believe I developed a little bit more also. What about in Namibia, Ezequiel? What is the situation over there?
No, that's a very good question, but within the university, if you have graduated 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you can still go back and get your information from them. Or if you have registered, they give you a specific student ID that you can use, and even when you are coming back, you can use that same student ID. It means that we have a database of this information. But the question will come then: is this information relevant to the industry? Does it have relevant information to the industry? I would say not really, because the information that is there is really on what the student have graduated, but not really on the specific skills that the student have that can be used. So there is a missing link on the practical side of things. But also we have the Namibia Statistic Agency that is working closely with the university that have all these type of data of how many students have graduated, how many students are employed, and so forth. But now there is our industry. I'm very straight when I'm talking about these things, because our private sectors, they are not really into data. We are not really having an industry that is ready to use data for employment. But what they normally do, I think they use either agency to recruit. Not all of them. They use recruiting to recruit their people, or sometimes they just employ on their own. But we are not really big on data at the moment in Namibia, if I can put it that way. We are a little bit behind. We have data, but still they are not at the level where we can say, yes, if you can go on the Google, for example, and say, I just need to know how many students were in the university. There is not that specific database that is accessible to everyone and everyone in the economy. And we need something like that, because that's how you create the links between the industry, the government, the student, and also the civil society. I hope I have done justice to that question.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that was clear. And our last question, I'm afraid we overpassed a little bit our time, but the discussion is very interesting. From Learn Online, given the limitations of digital learning environments, they don't capture all that we need to learn about learning. Do we have frameworks, architectural or pedagogical, that we can use to inform planning of learning that considers offline information about learners as well? That's an open question to all of you.
Maybe I'll start. Yes, the problem with learning analytics is that it relies mostly on online and the information systems used. And of course, it's the idea that data will be generated quite automatically, and it's easy to collect data from that way. But as said, if this teaching is relying on a classroom teaching mostly, so most of the teaching is outside of learning analytics, and that's problematic. And I don't know if there are good architectures or pedagogical ways, but I know that these surveys I mentioned are used in those cases. So we can have, let's say, automatic system sending surveys time to time to learners, and we can collect formative data that way. And we can combine that data together with the data we have collected from information systems. I think that's the most common way to solve the problem.
Maybe if I can come in Namibia at the moment, I cannot comment on the frameworks yet because I'm not vested into that. But just to comment on the capturing, the digital learning environment, we are really new in this platform. I remember I did my master degree in through online. If somebody, I tell them I did my master degree online, they might laugh at me. So that shows already that we are really behind when it comes to digital learning and so forth. And for example, our university, it's only during COVID-19 when we start seriously talking about e-learning. Even though we use it here and there, the response from students was not really good. But it's now only that we start talking about digital learning, on how many students have phones and so forth. So we are really at the inceptive, at the beginning, if I can put it that way.
And also related to what you, Ezekiel, just said, we have a question from Nande. What advice can you give to countries like Namibia that are behind when it comes to technology? How can Namibia integrate IT, given the fact that most of these schools are rural schools with no internet coverage? And the second question I will do right now, and please, the speakers feel free to answer the question that you want. The second question is, do universities have digital hub for researchers done by students for study purposes? I mostly see repetition of studies in the same university just because there is no digital hubs.
Yes, these are difficult questions, and I think that there's no one right or wrong answer to these problems. I think that the first thing is what Altia actually said before, is that decide what is the most important thing. What is the key question you want to be answered to? For example, is it the amount of students, or is it the amount of schools, or is it both? And then start to build the data on top of these key questions. And of course, what is the thing that you want to use the data that you are collecting? As I said before, the problem in collecting the data is that you can always like collect and the data and no one uses it. So when it comes to the offline data collection or something like that, then there need to be the like clear picture of why the data is collected and what do you need the data for. I think hopefully I answered these questions. I think the baby steps for this matter is the best way.
Yes, and don't have to be internet connection all the times. In some cases, data can be collected and stored locally, and it can be updated to the servers, let's say once a month or something like that.
Yeah, just in agreement with Alti is that there is a lot of way where we can collect data and keep information without the need of the internet. The challenge within Namibia is that just for you to have this information at the schools, there's a lot of how do you call it? It's a tedious process for you to implement such because the schools in Namibia, they are not really independent. So the government really have to come in here by identifying entrepreneurs like Glowdom. You know, this I'm not mentioning only Glowdom here because they gave me a platform, but I'm saying that they need to identify entrepreneurs and innovators that can really bring solutions to the schools. That's number one, the government. Number two, the private sector also have to come on board to make sure that they fund these type of things, because the government itself cannot really be able to fund these things alone and cannot run with these things. So you also need the academics to make sure that they have proper research that they have done to implement such system or such hubs. Maybe the last one on university on digital hub. Yes, in the case of Namibia, this is the challenge for us, for students, and within our university we have what we call tech hub, technology hub, inclusive. So what we are doing, we are trying to have data's information, provide platforms so that we can really engage the students so that they can have access to digital hub. So these are really projects that are at the beginning up to now in Namibia. So yeah, that's what I can say on those two questions.
Thank you very much, all of the questions from the audience, and especially for the speakers for answering and making your comments, and most of all, bringing your own personal and professional experience to the table so we can learn from the real life groundwork situations. And I believe we need to finish because we went a little bit over the time. I'm happy for it actually, but I just want to open for the audience that we are organizing on-demand webinars, And if someone from the audience or anybody else that will watch this webinar later on would like to suggest any topic for our discussions, we have this form that gathers opinions, suggestions, comments for anybody who would like to suggest a topic for further discussion. And we also have all the previous webinar recordings, including this one, both streamed in the EduX YouTube channel and also in the Glowdom AHA blog. So if you know someone who would be interested to watch this webinar later on, just suggest them to Google it and they will find all this material. So I would like to ask Ezequiel, Paulina, and Alti to finish with a final comment, your final words about the topic and maybe what you would like to see soon, not in a very far future, but soon in your real life.
Maybe to start, if we are talking about Industrial Revolution 4.0, and we are talking about education and market, we need to make sure that there's a cohesion. This industry should talk together to make sure that they identify the needs, the jobs, and catch up with what is happening now. Industrial revolution is like a weather. It's like a cold. If it's cold, there's no way you are going to avoid it. You just need to get a jersey and wear it. So basically, the government, the private sector, the civil society, and the academics need to come together. They need to somehow come together and come up with a strategic plan, and within the universities, within their companies, within the government's departments that are strategically working on this type of project, to make sure that they prepare their country, to prepare their industry, and also their universities for this thing. And what I want to see now, I would love to see this type of stakeholders working together. I'm really impressed to see on what Alti presented, that the teachers, the student management, and so forth are working together. I want to see this happening in Namibia. I want to see innovators that are coming up with good ideas that are good ideas at the moment, being helped to implement this type of ideas. That is my final comment.
Thank you, Ezequiel, and I really agree what you said. It's very important. We have cooperation, we have these groups, we have these social sciences, we have technologies, but technologies are only tools. If we don't have different mindsets, if we can't do new kind of cooperation with different partners, we don't get benefits from technology. I think that's my point. Thanks.
I agree with you both. I don't know if I have much more to add to that. Dialogue, conversations, cooperation. I know the needs are different in different nations and in local schools and so on. But I think that the dialogue is the key for most of the problems that we have, and also for the change.
Thank you so much, everybody. And unfortunately, I think we have to finish this webinar. Please keep in contact with us through our social media in Glowdom and EduX. And when we organize new webinars in the future, you will know. We will let you know. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye.